Yeah, I got a few couple comments before we start. Obviously, relative to the UVA family, just want to know Danny Wilmer's family. Just definitely want them to let them know that they're in our prayers. Obviously, very well respected, assistant here for many years. So heart goes out to them, and also a former player, Corey Mosley. Obviously, life ended too short, so want his family to know that we stand with them and we support them. And then also want to, extend, a heartfelt, just, it's hard to describe. I was texting with Coach Narduzzi earlier today, about the loss of one of their players, Mason Alexander, and really, you don't. I don't even have the words to tell him. Obviously, I know our situation, but just want him to know that we support him, thinking about his team, and then also thinking about the Alexander family as they deal with the loss of a loved one. So, to all those that we lost, that were impacted, just want everybody to know that we're thinking about them, we're praying for them, and if there's anything we can do, just let us know. All right. Yeah. Yeah, it was good competition today, guys. A lot of excitement. Day one, they're eager to get back out on the grass and practice, but definitely looks a little bit different, especially up front, even with the bodies that were down on the offensive line in particular. But the new additions and then some of the young guys stepping in was good to see today. And then defensive line wise, we're probably in solid shape. We are down two bodies there, but with the addition of the new guys, so it just brings competition and really the only position right now that we don't quite have the competitive depth that we would like is in the secondary, and we tried to address that. Wasn't quite as fortunate as the other positions, but we got a plan to bring in some more competition, hopefully in the next portal window after the spring. Mhm. Yeah. Well, biggest thing is learning what the practice expectations are, and it's easy for me to get in here and put up a PowerPoint and say this is what we do, but until they get out there and they experience it, it's a different thing. And then you got to learn who these guys are, what makes them tick, what their strengths are. I mean, you have an idea based off of what you've seen on film, but it's different when you actually watch them live. So it's going to be a fun challenge for us this spring. But so far, it looks like there's good chemistry and a good bond between the guys that are here. And now as coaches, it's our job to come alongside them and pick up where the strength staff left off for the next 5 or 6 weeks and make sure we don't mess them up too much because they're in a good spot, but also figure out what each guy is capable of and see how that fits into our system or see how we need to adjust the system to fit the skill sets that we got. The biggest adjustment is just you might have to slow down. Whereas with years of continuity, you can ramp up a little bit and then maybe introduce some of the new things that you want to introduce from your self scout. But when you have so many new guys, you got to take it a little bit slower, which isn't all bad as well, because now you really get an opportunity to focus on fundamentals and the details of what you do. So there's a little bit of a trade-off. But in particular, when you do have the number of new guys, you have to slow down a little bit. Yeah. Hmm. For me, from a program standpoint, it's just confirmation. We talk about developing these guys holistically, and that's living proof. You got a living example of a young man who came in here as a player, and then now he's developed and put himself in position to be employed, at his alma mater. That's pretty special, and he's picked up right where he left off. He's a ball of energy, man. He's a loud guy. He's in your face, so he's gonna make a great defensive line coach. He's also done a great job of being very humble too. I think that's what's the hardest about that transition immediately from player to being on the staff. So a lot to learn, and He's done a great job of just absorbing as much information as he can, and he's also done a great job of managing the relationships that he has with the guys in the locker room, because he's not a player anymore. He's a coach. So they might look at him a little bit different, but then also he has to be mindful of now the perspective and influence that he has. But he's done a great job so far, and seeing him run around out there today and kind of be all over the place, and that's what I expected to get out of Cam.
For all the newcomers you have, one of the returners that looks a little different is Dakota Twitty.
Right.
What have you noticed about his offseason, and where is he at development-wise coming off the year where he emerged as a good backup for you guys?
Right, great question on Dakota. He had gotten up to about probably 235-ish right there at the end of the season. Now he's about 240, and he's got a new number, so that's really helped him from just an energy standpoint. He likes his number. He feels good wearing number 9. He sees opportunity. Right, he sees opportunity, especially with a couple guys not quite being full go this spring. It just gives him more reps. He knows he's going to have to compete for it still when we get into the fall. But his body is transforming. He's really embraced the nutrition aspect, the strength and conditioning aspect of that position, because it is different than wide receiver. He's gotten just more opportunity to watch film and study the playbook, so he's a lot more confident, and we're expecting him to lead. All right, so right now he'd be the elder statesman from a practice standpoint of guys in that room. So you just see a different level of confidence with him, because I think the body is catching up with the position, and then also it's starting to slow down because he's had just more time to absorb the material. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
Last year. Does this become a particularly important spring and year for them?
I believe so, and there's always that challenge when guys get off to a fast start and making sure that they can carry it. Because again, when you're a freshman, it's a little bit easier because there's a little bit of grace. You're kind of just working off of athleticism. But then when you're a little bit older, there's a different expectation. And then, for in Dre's situation, injuries, and then Caleb was battling the ankle and then also the shoulder because he's out this spring because he had to have his shoulder fixed. And Sadarian just had competition. Right at the position. So I'm excited about where they are. I think what you've seen out of all three of them is a renewed sense of urgency. I think with the addition of the newcomers, and then also having went through a year where maybe they didn't quite have the production that they expected or they liked, understanding that it's not going to get any easier going forward. The biggest challenge is to make sure you got the right mental perspective. And what I've seen out of Sadarian, what I've seen out of Dre made a couple of really good plays out there today. And Sadarian's back to being more vocal. That was one thing that Sadarian did a good job with his quarterback background coming in from high school. He was very vocal, throughout the course of practicing his freshman year. And I noticed that kind of, dwindled a little bit, but he's now back talking, being assertive, which I think is going to reflect in his play. And for Caleb, just unfortunately, he's going to be down for a little bit, but I anticipate when he comes back, he'll be ready to go. Hopefully, he'll be fully healthy and be able to be confident to go out there and make the plays that he's made in the past.
A number of programs around the country sort of turned down the amount of practice time and live in the spring for injuries. How do you balance that with also bringing in so many new guys that you want to get?
Great question. I think it's going to become and is a case-by-case basis. I think it's really relative to where your roster is. If you have a very experienced roster with a lot of depth, then I think it makes sense for you to be able to coach that more like a pro organization, so to speak. If you're a developmental program and you have a bunch of new guys, you have a bunch of young guys, you still gotta balance the practice, the developmental type practices. So for us, we're kind of mixing a little bit of both. We got some high rep guys that are returning, and then also some high rep guys that we've brought in that we have to manage throughout the course of practice. We are down some key contributors from last year that we have to battle through, but we also got a lot of young guys that need reps. So we got a plan that we'll start with, and then we'll step back and assess. The good thing is we got 3 practices, then we got spring break. So one advantage is with the way that we got it structured, it's not a consistent constant grind and pound on these guys, there is a little bit of breaks throughout the course of the spring. We got the local school spring break, which I try to make sure that I do a good job of work-life balance with my coaches. So that week we'll only practice twice that week. So I think we got a good plan, but we're also ready to adjust based off of where the wear and tear is. And then, there may be some situations where we're forced to because we just don't quite have the depth. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. And I think it's going to be like that going forward for each school, because you got to practice, especially with the space that we're in, right? If we're still recruiting the high school level player and developing them, and then we got guys moving in and out of our program, you gotta figure out a way to develop. So I think it's going to be some trial and error, but I don't think there's going to be a cookie cutter plan that fits everybody, because everybody's organization is different. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got several of them out for the spring. Obviously, Clary we know is down for the spring. Kiki decided to have shoulder surgery, so he's down. Hardy's down, so that's the secondary guys that are down. Noah Vaughn needed shoulder surgery, so he's down for the spring. Hammond, we knew about Hammond and his situation. Chase Morrison, hip, he'll be limited this spring. Cam Robinson played all year, was a warrior with his shoulder. He got it fixed. Trey McDonald the same way, was playing on one shoulder, and then James Jackson had a back, and while he was doing his back, he figured he might as well fix his shoulder too, because he'd been playing with a bum shoulder. Sparky, my kicker's down with a shoulder, and then I got obviously. Carson Gay, hopefully we'll get him back a little bit this spring, but Sage is down. And then Metcalf's not fully cleared, but he's out there running around. He was a non-contact guy for us today, but he won't get any live contact. And then Josie, Boley, Steen, Ellinger, Wiklinski, and Curry are still down for the spring, and doesn't look like those guys will be back. And then we also would be smart too, trying to rush them back too soon. Mm-hmm.
Your old boss said the other day that tampering has become a huge problem. Have you experienced much of that, and what do you think should be done?
Yeah. So we know that tampering exists, in our business. It's unfortunate. Am I aware of schools reaching out to my guys? I mean, it's happened. I think we also have created a landscape where that's the norm. Right, and unfortunately, we're not in a situation where there's much that can be done about it. So what I say is, if you're going fuss about it, then turn them in. Right, if you're not going to turn them in, then don't really fuss about it. Figure out how to navigate. And it's unfortunate, but it's what we've created. And until we can get somebody with some true authority to be able to do something about it, I think it's still going to just keep happening. All you can do is focus on what you can do, what you can control. And the way that I combat it is try to make sure my guys have the best experience possible here at the University of Virginia, know that they're valued, they're appreciated, they're invested in, they're being developed, and hopefully in the end, if they are being tampered with, that wins out. As many as it takes, as many as it takes, and we got to start those guys in a spot. In fairness to them, they're coming in learning a brand new system, all new terminology. So you start them in a projected spot, and then as they absorb the content, then we'll be able to cross train them and put them in some different positions. But we'll go at the pace that they can absorb it. Also knowing too that we got additional combinations that are coming back once we get through spring and into early summer, because all those guys should be good to go early summer. So we're not anticipating any of those being, with maybe the exception of Kiki and James Jackson might be the only ones that would be a late summer return. Everybody else will be late spring, early summer. So we'll try to figure out what they can do, knowing that we're going to have to revisit it once all the other guys get back in the mix too.
I know Wyatt was saying he could play guard or
Right.
where you guys
So today he was out there at guard, and again we'll start there just because you got Monroe and you got You got Jack Whitmer, and then you got Ben York. And then we got Sipe at guard, and so we didn't have because again we're down some inside guys too, with Grant being down and Metcalf still not being healthy. Hartsoe is back, which gives us some additional depth there. So, but we started them inside today.
Jeff, why don't you finish this off?
How are you planning to divide quarterback reps?
Yeah, we're gonna let them compete. That's what we told them. Coming in the door, we laid out a plan that said, "Hey, here's what we want to do. We want to go bring in a veteran, experienced guy with 1 year left, and then bring in an undergrad, and then let everybody compete." So it's not a set deal. And so today it was, kind of 50-50, rotating those guys through, with the first group and the second group. So really, prioritizing the top three guys right now, with Grady kind of getting some reps as well, but really Frakes, Danny, and Chandler splitting up those reps to begin with, and then as we get further into spring practice, if there's some separation, then we'll change it up.